this in case anyone misses today. And for those of you that just joined or those of you that forgot, anytime you were to miss a Zoom or you think you're going to miss a Zoom, let me know ahead of time. If you do miss it, I always record our Zooms and I post them on the class YouTube channel. So if you do miss it. Okay, so hopefully everybody has had a chance to join the Google Classroom by this point. And you can see some due dates. Our vocabulary is due tomorrow, so that's going to be a high priority item today. Our notes are due on Friday. Let me pull this up for you guys. Our notes are due on Friday, and see some people have already turned it in. And then we have our student information and student syllabus that are due on Friday as well. So for those of you guys that are just joining us today, these are 2 assignments you want to get knocked out really, really easily. They're easy 100s. It's just some information collecting, so I can know more about you. And then the syllabus just goes over information about the class. All right. So let's go to our checklist. So when you navigate through here, you always want to check the checklist, okay? Even tomorrow is an asynchronous day. That doesn't mean that you're off, right? It means that you have work to do on your own. Now, for some of you guys, if you work hard enough today, you won't really have that much to do tomorrow. Okay, so let's take a look at the checklist for the week. So what should you have done yesterday, or if you're just joining us today, what can you do to get caught up? So yesterday, the big thing was the syllabus and the student information. Okay, that's due on Friday. And then we started our vocabulary list. What are we going to do today? Well, we've got our Zoom. And I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about the meaning of life. And no, not like what is our purpose and what am I going to do with my life, but like what does it mean for something to be alive? If we had to explain to a child, like what does it mean for something to be alive? Why am I alive and my cell phone is not, right? We all know this, right? But explaining that to a child can be really, really difficult. And so we need to have like a frame of reference. How are we going to do that? Because some of you guys may or may not one day have children of your own, and kids like to ask questions. And then what you're going to do once I turn you guys loose is to make sure to finish your vocab. Now, if you've already finished your vocab, you can, start chugging along with the notes. You watching those videos and looking through the PowerPoint. And just as a quick reminder, where do you find these things? If you scroll down to Unit 1, Intro to Bio, okay, the lecture tab right here has got 2 videos that I've made, right? And so that's why I'm not going to talk at you during our Zooms for too long. I've already made little videos that you guys can watch on your own time. So maybe, when we're done today, you'll watch this video, biotic versus abiotic. It's only 3 minutes long. And then tomorrow you can watch this video. It's 21 minutes, and it goes through the whole 8 characteristics of life. This video, it's got me talking, and I'm talking about this PowerPoint. And so this PowerPoint has everything you need to complete this assignment right here. Number 1, notes, okay? And it's just like a blank document that you fill in with the answers. We will have a quiz, right, on Friday, and the information in your quiz will come from these notes that you gathered from this PowerPoint. And I would most definitely watch these videos, because sometimes I talk about stuff in the video that's not written out in the PowerPoint, and it might end up on the quiz. So you want to make sure to check that out. And then there's the vocab that they were working on yesterday. And you can see half of you guys have already turned it in. And that is awesome, right? And you'll realize that a lot of the assignments I give you, I'm not trying to give you busy work. I'm not trying to take up too much of your time. Just what do we need to do to be able to understand and have a informed discussion about biology? All right, so let's go back to our checklist, okay? So that's what we're doing today. Now, I do want to talk about tomorrow, because tomorrow is asynchronous, so we will not have a Zoom. You will need to finish and turn in your vocab, so that is due tomorrow. And I would like for you to spend some time working on the notes, right? And your notes will require you to read the PowerPoint and watch some of the lecture videos, right? And I've got a little bit of information about that there. If you have questions about anything tomorrow, please send me a message on the Remind or send me an email. If later on in the semester, if you're falling behind and you need some one-on-one help, I will be glad to hold like private tutoring sessions on Wednesdays as well. You just got to let me know ahead of time. Okay, so before I turn you guys loose to work on your vocabulary, I want to ask you a question, right? What is life, right? And you don't have to say anything out loud. It's just for you in your head, you're kind of just, along for the ride. what does it mean to be alive? You know, when I was a child, I was always asking my parents questions. Hey, mom. Hey, dad. What's this? What's this? Why does this happen? Why? Why? What? How? When? Where? All the time. And I was fortunate enough to have parents that if they didn't know the answer, they would always tell me, like, hey, well, you know, when we get back home, you know, and I'm not much older than you guys, but still old enough that, you know, when I was younger, we didn't have the internet. You know, my parents bought me an encyclopedia. I don't know if you guys have ever seen an encyclopedia. It's like a bunch of big books and they go from like A to B and C to D in their alphabetical order, and you can like look stuff up in there. It's more than a dictionary, you know. So you could look up the word life in the encyclopedia, and it'd be more than definition. You know, kind of have a bunch of different descriptions, some historical applications, and so you know, there are a lot of questions that we think are easy to answer. We know what the answer is. Like, I know that I'm alive, and I know my phone is not. But then the kid asks you, why? How do you know? Right? That's the important thing about science. Not what you know, but how do you know? Right? If I said, "Hey guys, you know, I've invented this crazy pill. If you eat this pill, you know, your wildest dreams will come true. You'll get super strong and jacked, or super intelligent, or you'll lose weight, or you'll learn 9 languages overnight." You're like, wow. But any intelligent person would say, well, how do you know that it's going to work? Right. And obviously, as a scientist, how do we figure out how? Is we experiment, right? And then we have all these forms of data and evidence that support our claims. So what is life? We have to have evidence. And I'm gonna ask you something. I'm gonna pretend to be the little 3-year-old or little 4-year-old, right? And so I'm holding up a rock and I'm looking at you and I'm like, Mom, Dad, is this rock alive? You don't have to answer me right now, but I want you to be thinking, is this rock, and this is some type of sandstone it looks like, or maybe some kind of extrusive igneous rock. But anyways, how do you know? I mean, so you tell a kid, no, honey, that rock is not alive. It's not living, right? Well, what is the kid going to ask? You know, yeah, it's abiotic. Good. Yeah, it's abiotic. It's not living. But the kid's going to say, well, how do you know? And you're thinking, okay, well, this is easy, right? The rock does not move, but I do. I breathe. The rock does not breathe. Rocks don't eat. I need to eat. As an animal, we can make babies. Rocks can't make babies. Well, the kid grabs the rock and drops it on the floor, and the rock shatters into a bunch of small pieces. The kid looks up at you and says, well, Dad, Mom, I had a big rock, and now I've got lots of baby rocks, right? And you can see how this would be difficult, right? Because you're like, well, that's not the same thing, right? And the kid's going to say, well, why not? Or the kid picks up the rock and says, okay, throws the rock through the air. The rock's moving now. Is it alive now? And you're like, well, no. You made the rock move. The rock didn't move itself. And so the kid says, okay, well, the rock's not moving, and neither is the tree outside. And you say, well, the tree does move some, right? Look out the window right now. It's moving. And the kid says, well, the tree's not doing that. The wind is blowing the tree. And you're thinking at this point, you got your hands in your hair like, oh, okay, what did I sign up for, right? Well, this is parenthood, right? But you need to be the responsible parent, and you need to guide your child to the answer. This is where it can be kind of difficult, right? And I will provide you, right, with more information so that when this day comes, you'll have good answers, right? You won't just say, because I'm the parent. I don't know about you guys. I hate that answer. That answer drove me up the wall. What about this? Kid picks up some dirt. Because maybe at one point you told your son or daughter that, you know, rocks eventually break down into dirt and soil. So the kid picks up the dirt and soil and says, Dad, Mom, is the soil alive? And you think, I'm not sure. No, it's not alive. Things that are alive live in it. moles, insects, worms, bacteria, and fungus. Plants can grow in it, but the soil itself is not alive, right? And now the kid's just confused, right? Then the kid says, well, what about the plant? Especially the house plant, right? This is a yucca. I've got lots of these in the classroom, and I'll be teaching you guys all about these plants. They're really fun. He said, Dad, Mom, I've been looking at this tree all week, and it hasn't moved. And I've been watching it all week, and it hasn't grown or anything. It doesn't look like it's eating. It doesn't look like it's breathing. And you say, well, hold on a second. There's a lot going on inside of this plant that we can't see. And there are a lot of movements, and this plant will grow, but we have to be patient. We have to wait and see. You probably know that plants perform photosynthesis. So plants are, in a way, breathing. They breathe in they breathe in carbon dioxide, and they make food. They make sugar, and then they release oxygen, right? So in a way, they are breathing, right? And plants don't eat like you and I eat, but plants make their own food. So we can't see it, but this plant right now is breaking down or eating the sugars that it made with the sun, right? And this plant will grow. If we wait long enough, right, these leaves will get longer, the stem will get longer, the roots will get bigger, and eventually you might even have to move the plant into a bigger pot. And there are some subtle movements that plants can perform. Depending on where the sunlight is, the plant might start to tilt, right? It might start moving towards the sun. And that's definitely something a rock can't do. And I will teach you how to make clones of this plant. You can actually cut off one of these little nodes right here, pull off some of these bottom leaves, put it into a cup of water, and eventually it'll grow a root. When it grows a root, you put it in soil and you've got a new plant. That's reproduction. And what the really neat thing about that is that's asexual reproduction. And I've just made a clone of that plant. I can't do that with a rock. This is water, right? So now you're at the lake and the water's moving and it's splashing and it just looks very active and very dynamic. And so your son or daughter looks at you and says, Mom, Dad, is the water alive? And you stop for a minute and you think, well, no, water is not alive. There are lots of living things in the water, right? There could be bacteria in here, algae, plants, animals, right? But the water itself is not alive, right? It's not going to reproduce. It's not going to grow. I mean, it can move, but it moves because other things move it. The pool of water doesn't say, all right, I'm going to make a wave. No, the wind action makes the wave. What about bacteria? Right? We talk about bacteria a lot, and we know that bacteria is everywhere. It's on our skin, it's in our mouth, it's in our stomach, it's on my hands, it's on my computer, it's in the air around us. And your kid says, maybe your kid just had strep throat, and your kid says, Dad, Mom, I didn't like that. Are bacteria alive? And you say, yeah, they're alive. And the kid says, I don't like them. They must be bad, right? Bad life. And then you say, well, some bacteria do cause diseases, right? And they are bad. And they do kill people sometimes and kill other animals and plants. But not all bacteria are bad, right? But they are, in fact, alive. In fact, on my skin right now and on your skin, what you can see is my dead skin cells. And actually covering my skin are millions of bacteria, like the bacteria growing on this dish. And they're alive. And they might be eating the dead skin on my head or the oils or dirt and debris that fall on my face, and they're growing and coating my skin. But they're actually there to protect me. Okay, we actually have a really unique relationship with those forms of life. You can't see them with your eyes. If and when we return to the classroom, I will actually be teaching you how to grow bacteria. We'll actually be growing bacteria off our skin and our cell phones. And you will not believe how gross these things are. Because I know most of you guys probably take this in the bathroom. For number one and number two, and you probably wash your hands, but you probably don't wash your phone. This is an interesting one. In the chat box right now, do you know what this is a picture of? Or do you know what this is an image or a diagram of? Really, really small. You would never be able to see this with your own naked eye. Yes, yeah. This is the coronavirus. This is what coronaviruses look like. So there's lots of different coronaviruses, and the type or strain of the coronavirus that's causing us all of this craziness right now is COVID-19, right? So it's a unique strain of the coronavirus that is exceptionally infectious and is able to transmit from one person to the next. Now, we a lot of times talk about, and hold on one second, I got an idea. Okay. Hand sanitizer has become really popular. And I want to show you something. It says kills the most germs. And you'd say, okay, no coronavirus. Oop, I just got it all over my pants. That was a mistake. All right. And I wiped my hands. And I said, all right, I killed the coronavirus on my hand. Well, you actually did sanitize your hands. And hand sanitizer actually does stop or slow down the transmission of any virus, really, from one person to the next. But we didn't kill it because you cannot kill a virus. Although viruses behave somewhat like living things, and they do behave a lot like bacteria, viruses are not truly considered living. And this is something that scientists argue all about, and they probably will continue to argue, because there are some things that viruses can do that are very similar to what our cells can do. But there are some things that they still can't do on their own. So we consider them non-living or abiotic. And this one's tough. Fire, right? The flame of a candle or the flame of a campfire or a fireplace. Fire is not alive. Although for most of human history, most civilizations considered fire to be a living thing. Because if you've ever seen a wildfire, the fire looks like it has a mind of its own. The fire looks like it's hunting out food, jumping from one tree to the next, and then consuming it and moving from place to place. And then we know that if we take air away from fire, it's like we choke it, right? And it doesn't survive. But fire is not alive, right? Yeah, right, exactly. You know, the virus or the fire, they can't reproduce on their own, right? And fire is simply a discharge of energy, right? It's a release of energy, but itself is not alive. Now, you know these things. It's probably easy for you to look at this and say, yes, it's alive. No, it's not alive. Tomorrow, when you look at your notes, you look at the PowerPoint, you watch the videos, you're going to be learning how we classify things as living and non-living. What do we need to look for, right? How can we defend our answer? So when my kid says, hey, why is the fire not living? I can say, because it does not blank, 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 right? And that's the start of a good, valid argument. Okay, so I'm going to leave you guys with that. What I would like for you guys to do now is I would like for you guys to go and finish your vocabulary, which is right down here if you have not already. If you have finished your vocab, you can start chugging away at your notes, the PowerPoint, or you could simply kick back and maybe watch one or two of the lecture videos that I provided. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, like I said, I promised to keep it as short as possible. And remember, we have no Zoom tomorrow, but I will see you guys in Zoom on Thursday at 11:45. Okay, no Zoom tomorrow. We will Zoom on Thursday. And if you have any questions tomorrow, please don't hesitate to send me a message. Okay? All righty, ladies and gentlemen, we'll go forward.